Why isn't combat firmly cemented as a feature for Ashes? This is a really good question. It's 46 Nation. What's up, 46 Nation? This is a really important question. And I know it's a really important question because I made a video on it. And as you can see, the person's entire thread is based on my video. I'm relatively new to the Ashes community, but I've watched every single video on Ashes YouTube channel. I've also watched a lot of content from community members. And the one question that has gone through my head is, why hasn't Steven and Intrepid Studios made an official stance on combat? Yeah, that's a great question. So, you guys know that every combat touches everything. There are systems in games that touch some things, but combat touches everything. So, what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna start rattling off some. I'm gonna start rattling off some systems. Nodes, combat touches them via sieges. Caravans, obviously rolling PvP, combat zones, wars, PvP, gathering. Well, we're gonna say artisan system, and we're gonna say gathering. Wow, my fingers, man. Gathering, PvP, crafting. Is combat. What else? What other systems do we have in Ashes? Religion. These are quests. Some will no doubt be combat. Election methods. PvP for military. What else? Let's see. The naval system will no doubt have some sort of shipboarding. What else? What other systems? Yeah, the bounty hunting system. And then the bounty hunting, we just go corruption. And we'll just say open world PvP. We've said wars PvP, we've said artisan system, the gathering systems PvP, but we didn't say open world PvP. Dungeons and raids is combat. Look, so when you're looking at this, every single system so far, other than processing, has been, social organizations, social orgs. We're gonna put social orgs question mark. I don't know for a fact that there's a first order effect of combat on social orgs, but I do know social orgs affect crafting, thus combat. Even questing, exactly. Questing, combat, kill type. Grinding for mob drops, for caravans, for gold. Combat. So you see, I can't come up with a system in Ashes of Creation that isn't affected by combat, that doesn't touch combat. Questing becomes a matter of, do we have you kill 100 mobs for 50 drops? Because mob TTK, mob time to kill. You see what I'm saying? The quest designers are going to choose, are we going to do 1-for-1 drops because it takes a while to kill each mob? Or are mobs easy to kill in AoE grind? So we're going to, have a not 1-for-1 drop. You might have to kill 3 or 4 for 1. So, there is a lot that combat touches. Combat touches a lot of things. So when a new person to the community, and you guys know that when I'm gonna do something, when I'm gonna do some sneaky shit, I'll let you know. When I have my whole community go and ask a question in the forums, I say I had my whole community go to the forums and ask this question. I don't know this guy. Didn't ask this guy to post my video. I don't know who he is. But the key part of this is, ready? Remember I talked about how on Monday, and I said the marketing department did a really good job for a year and a half, and they gathered a bunch of people together. But now, what are you doing with them? It's like having thousands of people crowded into an arena to see a concert, but they don't know who's playing. I'm relatively new to Ashes of Creation, and I have a question. Let's see what the person says. Jahlon talks about if the studio or Steven has 180'd on combat. Now, the way I watched Ashes of Creation on YouTube was backwards, going from 2021 all the way to 2017. When combat was being talked about recently, you would hear hybrid combat being said a lot. Going back through the years, you hear one thing or another, almost flip-flopping between philosophies of combat. Now, the reason I believe in this company is because of Steven and his direction of the game. You always have an answer to almost every question and the reason why it is the way it is. Now, more than back in the day, Steven also said if a hybrid system doesn't work the way he wants it to, then he will just do a tab target combat. With a game that has so many old school MMO principles, why is the team wanting combat to be so different? This right here is a design philosophy question. And I've held Intrepid's feet to the fire on this question for 4 years that I've been making content. How can you say that? How can you make a statement? How can you legitimately make a statement that you want social interactions to be important in an MMO again, right? You want social interactions to be important, yet action combat is predominantly AoE combat. BDO, lots of AoEs. Elyon, lots of AoEs. Lost Ark, lots of AoEs. You see where I'm going here. When you have a lot of AoEs in games, you generally have people that go to a solo farming spot. But just like we said over here, grinding for mob drops for caravans for gold, you're not going to go out to a grinding spot. You're not going to go out to a grinding spot and spend 3 hours there grinding mobs because your backpack won't allow you to. Your backpack won't allow you to. So when people say, well, I'm going to spend hours a day grinding, no, you're going to spend hours a day spending minutes grinding and then traveling back to a point of storage and then doing minutes grinding and traveling back to a point of storage. Now, those minutes might be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. We don't know how small the backpack's going to be, but really, the combat ties into that farming. So with a game that has so many old school principles, why is the team wanting combat to be different? It's a great question. Now, a lot of people I've spoken with on Ashes are around my age or older. 35 does tend to be the average age. Bump that down a little bit to like 32. But there are a lot of people in their 40s and 50s that are waiting for Ashes. Also, the MMO community hasn't really grown throughout the years either, like other genres have. This is actually incorrect. This is actually incorrect, not because it's not true that the MMO genre hasn't grown through the years like the other genres have. What it is that those other genres were born. The birth and the growth of a new genre is faster than the player acquisition of an established genre. Remember, figures lie and liars figure. It's like if I said the fastest growing gaming community is the VR community, you'd look at me and you'd say the VR community is still really small. And I'd say you're right, the VR community is very small. But I didn't say the largest community, I said the fastest growing community. If my community only really legitimately started in 2020, 2019 maybe, but legitimately 2020, if I grow from 0 to 1,000, that growth curve is what? 1,000%? Yeah. Well, it's an infinite change. Yeah, 0 to it. Let's do 1 to 1,000 because yeah, it's 10,000. I'm sorry, it's 99,900%. Yeah, when you fuck with zero, I hate fucking with 0. Yeah, you can't assign a percentage to a base 0 because it's an infinite growth. But even then, I can turn around and say the VR community has had infinite growth because within 2 years ago they started at 0. But yeah, you have to start at 1. And so if the VR community went from 1 to 1,000 people, that's 99,900% growth. No other genre has had 99,000% growth. So you got to be careful with a statement like that. It's mostly a shuffle of pre-existing MMO players looking for the next game they can really sink their time into. Again, I disagree with you, but let's just keep going. Also, just want to say I'm a 15-year veteran of WoW, and that was my main game for all those years. Okay, well, yeah, if you're a 15-year, if you're a 15-year veteran of WoW, that would be your main game. I tried Star Wars: The Old Republic, Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy 14 and 11, BDO and WildStar, but none of those games hooked me like WoW did. So my preferred style of combat is traditional tab, because that's what I'm used to, and I'm comfortable playing in that style. Now, anytime you belong to a certain community, whether that's the tab or action camp, you feel like your voices are the loudest, and you should do what I want, because we are the majority. Now, sadly, that's just not true. Actually, this is why I really, really, really hope that people start to sit down and not type into the forum post box. Instead, they need to write their forum posts in Word and then do an Abraham Lincoln on Leadership, one of the books on the back shelf. Write your forum post and then walk away from it and then go get lunch and then come back to it before you post it. Because anytime you belong to a certain community, you feel your voices are the loudest and you should do what I want because we are the majority. The tab community is the majority. The tab community is the majority in the MMORPG world. Okay, this is not a disputable fact. There are more tab target players. Well, hold on, let me say it in a more correct way. There are more players in tab target games than there are in action combat games. This is not a disputable fact. WoW, Final Fantasy 14. You could take all the other games in circulation and pit them up because WoW and Final Fantasy may be competitors for that tab target pool of players, but they join forces and form Voltron when you're talking about the populations. So yes, you should not be heard because your voice is the loudest, but if you're trying to make a successful game, one of the things you have to look at is target audience. And I did that video on target audience. And if you need to have 700,000 players, you probably need to make an action combat game because let me grab something real quick. If you need to have 700,000 players to be successful in a subscription-based game, and that's the other caveat, in a subscription-based game, then you better go tab target. Because if you don't go tab target, then you're going to run into this problem very, very, very quickly. And that is people have to account for fall off. And this is New World. This is New World stats. And people said, oh, New World broke the mold with the action combat. And I said, why? They said, because 913,027 peak. Boom. Flag bearer, appreciate that. So, boom, cha-ching, I love that sound. I love the sound of cha-ching. 913,027 times 2. So, a real quick and dirty math is to take your total and do 2 numbers, your all-time peak, and you times it by 2 and you times it by 3. You absolutely will not have more than 3 times your all-time peak, but that becomes your right side border. You can't have less than 913,000 people bought your game because 913,000 people were playing it at the same time. Now, a data point we can't get is refunds, which might dump that down. Boom. You might want to wait on buying all those until the price goes down by half. The blackout sale starts later. Thanks for supporting the channel, but hold up, slow up. They're gonna go on sale today. But yeah, New World, and I'll throw you a skin because you bought 2. I'll throw you one to make up the price difference. Hold up, don't buy any more. Let them go on half price. So New World did between 1.8 and 2.7 million sales. But now look at their 24-hour peak of players. We're just gonna do 170 because 170 is neater and cleaner. So 170 times 2. So they had between 340,000 daily players and 507,000 daily players. That's not a good drop off. That's not, look at that drop off. That's not a good drop off for New World. So everyone was saying New World's gonna break the genre because no, it's not. New World is a great alpha. But I do want to point to the fact that yes, a game company does need to cater to the largest group unless they're trying to make a niche game. You guys know I support a game called Fractured. Is it Fractured? Yeah, I support a game called Fractured. Really great design company. Really love the fact that they are vocal with their community. Absolutely love the fact that some investors got involved with Fractured, and Prometheus and Dynamite Studios said, we're going to take a break from public development because we got some investors that gives us some money to do some stuff to make the game better. We've gotten a lot of data from you. But Fractured starts as an isometric downward looking game. So it's already so niche that they're not and my community has said this about Fractured. Fractured is a great game, and if they took it a step further and made it a traditional MMO, it would probably blow up. It would probably blow up in the MMORPG genre. It's a great game, but isometric is a niche thing. A game doesn't need to be for everyone. It does need to be for enough players to keep the development rolling. Absolutely, and that's do I have the image? I don't think I do. Yeah, I took... Oh, target audiences? Yeah, this is from my target audience video. So you can see the Ashes community, or the Ashes target audience, is already chopped up because there's people who won't play it if it's not action combat only. Not hybrid. There's people who only want an action combat game, so they won't play Ashes. There's people who won't play Ashes because the PvP is non-consensual. There's people who won't play Ashes because it has a monthly sub, or they won't play it because it has a cash shop, or they won't play it because they're afraid to pay to win. You got people that won't play Ashes because PvE isn't instance. There's no party finder. There's people who won't play Ashes because they don't like the art style. So by the time you start taking all those chops out, your target audience isn't 100% of the player base. So, have I watched the Why Hardcore Full Loot MMOs Fail by Just Strife Hayes? No, I haven't, but I don't need to watch somebody else's... I don't need to watch somebody else's video to tell you why hardcore full loot PvP MMOs fail. I don't need to watch some... I know why they fail. I know why they fail. They fail because people lose their stuff and then they quit. Some people lose their stuff for the second time and then they quit. People lose their stuff for the third time and then they quit. And you effectively have a less than 10% player retention. What a game needs, every game needs a successful player retention structure and a new player acquisition funnel. Well, the problem with a new player acquisition funnel is if you're not retaining enough players, your servers look dead and you're not acquiring new players. I actually got a key for Fractured from one of their past alphas. Combat was a little slow and scuffed, but the game itself was super solid. Yeah, Powerhouse, that's the big thing though. They're still an alpha. Unlike New World, I don't know why I just wrote down your name. Unlike New World that felt compelled to rush to release while their combat was still scuffed, Fractured Prometheus talked to us for a long time about our feedback about combat. They made a lot of changes. Sadly, player numbers aren't official on any number of different MMOs, so I can't just say, oh, look at X game with Y players and see Z combat style. That's why X game is so big, because of Z combat style. That would be disingenuous. Well, no. That would be... Well, first of all, yes. There are official numbers for some games. There are official numbers for some games. Don't use MMO population. That site's not official. But the problem is X game with Y players in Z combat. This is an example of correlation and causation never being the same thing. Jahlon's MMO has 1 million players and it's tab combat. Thus, 1 million people play the game because it's tab combat. No. 127,000 of those people play the game because it's tab combat. 500,000 of the players play the game because it was made by Jahlon and he's just sexy as shit. You know what I'm saying? You don't know why somebody's playing the game unless you ask each and every one of them. And normally it's really hard to boil down a personal preference with the 5 whys. Why do you play this game? 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 Because I'll tell you right now, I only played Neverwinter when I played Neverwinter because it was my wife's turn to pick a game. And Tamir was like, I found this game, I've been playing it while you're at work. So if you ask me why am I playing Neverwinter, I'm playing Neverwinter because it was my wife's turn to choose the game. Now, normally Tamir likes the games I find, but she said she wanted to play it, and we're a gaming couple. So my reason didn't have anything to do with the combat, the game style, the fact that it was Dungeons and Dragons had nothing to do with that. I'm playing this game because my wife told me to. Pretty much almost every single WoW content creator is playing Final Fantasy XIV. Again, this is a completely irrelevant statement because WoW content creators went to Final Fantasy XIV because Asmongold went to Final Fantasy XIV. And where Asmongold goes, so does a lot of population. Now, that's also not true. That's also not true because almost every single WoW content creator is not playing Final Fantasy. No, that's not true. A lot of WoW content creators have stayed with WoW because what they're trying to do is they're trying to pick up the scraps. They're trying to pick up the scraps from Asmongold's table. Number one, because this is a cutthroat industry. Asmongold's got some shit going on in his personal life right now, so he's not streaming as much as Asmongold. He's streaming as Zach. So that opens up the door for other content creators to walk through and get some market share. It's like if you noticed in my absence, some Ashes of Creation content creators sprung up trying to do my content, which is fine. You should. I'm not gonna say that they shouldn't have done that because they absolutely 100% should do that. If a guy that's made partner on Twitch suddenly leaves and creates a void, then you should carpe diem, man. That's your window of opportunity. Filling a gap in the market is absolutely your window of opportunity. It's like what Eminem says, you only get one shot. If I create a gap, if I create a hole in my suit of armor, and Ant-Man flies in, right? Tony Stark, why did Tony Stark move to a nano suit after Ant-Man got into the suit? He said, nope, I'm going to nanotech. It's the same thing. If I create a hole, fill that hole. So I disagree with some of these statements, and this is why I think this person should slow down. You need a book on how to debate. First of all, you're arguing with people on Twitter, Dante. That's your first mistake. You're arguing with people on Twitter. Second of all, there's no one single book on arguing debate, but I will tell you. Where the fuck is it? One of my books missing? What the? One of my books is missing and I don't like it. Oh no, here it is. Go down to my Amazon storefront. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's not a book on debate, but before you can learn to debate, you need to read this book. If you haven't read that book, then learning how to debate is pointless. So, yeah, it's in my what book link? No, books. Was it books? Yeah, all the books that I talk about are on my storefront. But yeah. Before that, though, World of Warcraft was perceived to be the biggest MMO of them all. No. Yeah, it's by Dale Carnegie. World of Warcraft was not perceived to be the biggest MMO of them all. So this is another one of those, this is an opinionated piece. World of Warcraft was always perceived to be the most financially successful MMO of them all. No, WoW was not universally perceived to be the biggest MMO of them all. Because I can shatter that with one sentence. EVE Online. EVE Online is about a bajillion times larger than WoW. Because biggest. Yeah, old school RuneScape holds the world record for the number of, but not more players, Zetrix? You're wrong again. RuneScape has more players than World of Warcraft by a factor of 10. RuneScape holds the Guinness Book of World Records for most subscribers to an MMORPG at 110 million when they won when they got given the Guinness Book of World Records award. So, but RuneScape lost a lot of, who cares? Here's the thing, man, you're arguing from bias. You're arguing to make that point true, and all I have to do is make that point false. World of Warcraft was perceived to be the biggest MMO of them all. It wasn't bigger in world size than EVE Online. It wasn't bigger in world size than Skyrim, ESO. It wasn't bigger in world size than lots of games. It wasn't bigger in population than RuneScape. The statement is World of Warcraft is universally regarded as the most successful financial MMORPG of all times. But you can't start throwing, you have to be careful with your phrases, otherwise you lose the argument because your support is wrong. Everyone knows WoW and what it did to the MMO gaming market. Before WoW, you had Ultima Online, EverQuest, RuneScape. No, you didn't. You had EverQuest 2, Lineage 2. I'm gonna avoid stepping in it. So you had Lineage 2, EverQuest 2, Final Fantasy 11. You had other MMOs out there. The reason I mention this is because a lot of people I see in the Ashes Discord mention they come from old school MMO background. That means they're used to playing tab target combat. Now, playing WoW is 90% tab and 10% action based on the spell, and I think that's a good balance personally. Yeah, I'll go with that. I'll agree with that. WoW is 90% tab and 10% action. I'll agree with that. I tried to play some of the new MMOs that are action combat centered, like New World, BDO, ESO, and those games have their own problem with the action system. Yes. Hold on, just so you guys can remember, I don't have an opinion on ESO combat, but one of my viewers does, and ESO combat is wobbly, janky, and just lame. It feels like your character is incompetent and unconfident because of the bad animations, and their animation cancels just make it worse. So ESO and BDO and New World back up my point. Action combat is great when it's exquisite, but if it's anything other than exquisite, all you have is a shitty action combat game. People want Dark Souls. People want Dynasty Warriors. They want that level of fluidity in their action combat game. You cannot get that level. You cannot get that level of fluidity in an MMORPG until everybody is playing on a fiber connection and has less than 50 millisecond ping. Yeah, Blessed, I'm sorry. Me6 decided to just take Monday off and post that out 24 hours later. I don't know what happened. It posted on time today. It is the problem. In 2022, I hope we're making enough money. I hope we start making enough money that I can pay somebody to write a custom bot for my server. Because once I can have a custom bot, then I have somebody whose ass I can put my boot up when it doesn't work on time. So, where am I? Sorry. I'm trying to get to the point where the blackout sale is live so I can start giving away skins. I want to give back to my community. With New World, if you're a healer, which they're going to be healers in AOC, properly targeting players is a real issue. I'm not going to cover New World's current issues because that's not what is being discussed here. The action combat in New World doesn't feel fun rotationally. Players can use a maximum of 3 skills per weapon or feel impactful. Okay. You all know my opinion on this. I hate the phrase feel impactful because, and people say I'm too literal, and I'm like, no, that's the meaning of the word feel. You don't feel shit unless you're playing with a Rumble controller or they've made a Rumble mouse and a Rumble keyboard, and I'm not aware of these things. It's not going to feel impactful. It's going to appear impactful. It's going to feel engaging because you feel engaged, but it's not going to feel impactful. If you want to know what feeling impactful is, get up and go punch your punching bag really hard. Put your gloves on first. I was going to say punch a door, but then of course somebody will punch their door, break their hand, and then sue me. So punch your punching bag with your gloves on first. Almost every single action-based MMO isn't really recommended by creators unless they say specifically, say for players looking for an action-based MMO. Hold on. Ever get to the end of a sentence and not remember what the beginning of the sentence said? Almost every single action-based MMO isn't really recommended by creators. Almost isn't really. Almost every isn't really. Okay, hold on. One more time. Every single action-based MMO isn't recommended by creators unless the creator specifically says for players looking for just an action-based MMO. This is wrong. New World creators promote New World because that's what creators do. BDO creators recommend BDO because that's what they do. ESO, that's what they do. Blade and Soul, that's what they do. Guild Wars 2, that's what they do. So no, I don't think there's creators for those games saying don't play this game. Like when I did Guild Wars 2, my Guild Wars 2 streams were funny as shit because I didn't know anything about the game, and I literally had a guy come in to my show who loved Guild Wars 2. Every time I went live and I was in the Guild Wars 2 category, he came in and he was my coach. If any of you were around for that, I literally had a guy riding shotgun. He wasn't backseat gaming. He was riding shotgun. And if I had a question, he'd answer it right away. If my community had a question, he'd answer it right away. Guy would have been an amazing content creator for Guild Wars 2, but he probably had, or she, I shouldn't gender assume, didn't say they wanted to be a creator, but they were an amazing community member because I was learning about the game. Then, of course, I started doing the Ashes show, and I was getting more viewers doing the Ashes show than I was getting the Guild Wars show, so it just made sense. They recommend WoW or Final Fantasy since they will have the most players and grouping for content won't be an issue. Well, the recent things happening on WoW, I don't think anyone is recommending WoW to anyone that's... Okay, so this guy... This is where, again, you started with a point, and you started with a good point, and now you're talking because somebody gave you the microphone. So going back on topic, with why hasn't Intrepid made tab target the official combat system for Ashes? Considering the player base are old school MMO players, a hybrid system for combat scares a lot of people, including myself. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because you just said up here, now playing WoW is like 90% tab and 10% action, and I think that's a good balance. Tab target, a hybrid system for combat scares a lot of people. Well, which one is it? Did you think an action combat had a good balance, or does it scare you? In the recent live stream, the fact that they're still debating on their combat approach really scares me. Going with the Trinity system was the right choice. No sense muddying the waters trying to create something new. So why go that route with combat? I honestly don't know. Steven has drawn plenty of lines in the sand when it comes to other systems and also says the game will not be for everyone, and I agree. Many of the systems are old school in nature, and maybe that will turn off casuals, but who knows? Don't knock it until you try it. I'm really tired of people using the don't knock it till you try it with me. Because you guys know that I come with a very deep bench of project management experience. Now, my project management experience isn't in MMOs. I only have 2 software projects under my belt. I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder, I don't have a degree in computer science. But I had, I probably oversaw more projects than all the project managers at Intrepid combined. I'm also smart enough to know that if I get hit with a computer science question, I go to my programmer friends. If it's a game design question specifically, I go to the game developers who are on my Discord. Because by going to them with a question, going to an expert with a question is great because they give you an answer and then it causes them to think about something. But I have a metric fuck ton of project management experience, and I don't need to see it in execution to challenge it. I'm just gonna use this, right? I'm just gonna use this. I don't need to wait until you build something to tell you it's not gonna be useful or it's not gonna be what we want. Ready? If one of my designers comes to me with a gun like this and gives me the design and it looks like this, do I need to wait till we build the prototype to know this is a bad fucking idea? No, I don't need to wait till this is built or executed to know this is a bad idea. If anybody isn't familiar with guns, thumb trigger. No, the barrel's facing the barrel's facing the, because you would hold it and use it, yeah. So I don't. Yeah, I don't need to wait. I don't need to wait until you build that, right? I don't need to wait till you build that to say that's a bad idea. Don't knock it till you try it. I don't need to try it. I'm certain. Don't knock it till you try it. I sure as fuck ain't trying this. I don't need to try this. No, thank you. This is a bad idea. And I'm not going to talk about the other one because that'll get me in trouble. But so I think that you can have an opinion on something that's in development and not wait. Yeah, I'm 200% not going to pull that trigger. I'm going to call a safety timeout. I'm not going to let anybody pull that trigger. So I don't have to wait till I try it. What do you think about the hybrid approach for Ashes? Do you like the fact that you could swap between tab or action? Or would you prefer that Intrepid just says one side or the other? No. You missed the whole fucking point. You missed the whole point. Do you feel like the fact you could swap between tab or action, or would you just prefer that action says one side or the other? That's not the point. That's not the problem. The problem is the issue at hand is
a lot of the discussion has been, revolving around how the camera perspective works from an action and non-action based, perspective, tab target versus action, right? There's a lot of discussion about, what unifying that approach might look like, and continuing to offer, 2 modes, how that's going to share across abilities. We've discussed in the past, giving players the opportunity to spec into more action-oriented skills versus tab targeting skills. There's some prototyping that actually I think is going to be explored here, and we'll see how it pans out.
Okay, that first part, he's talking about the 2-camera mode. Listen to this next part.
Versus tab targeting skills. There's some prototyping that actually I think is going to be explored here, and we'll see how it pans out. That allows for, skills to have a dual purpose in that sense, potentially.
Skills to have a dual purpose.
But on the flip side of that coin, there's also the idea of keeping to what is, having skills be specifically in one domain or the other.
So people told me that that's not what Steven was saying. It is what Steven's saying. Prototyping a dual purpose versus having it be action or tab. There's only one other there's only one other thing that can be. It's either action or tab, or it's action and tab. There's no other. So when people said, well, that's not what Steven was saying, that yes, it is. That's why Hi. You want to be seen? Is that the deal? You want to show him that you're getting better? Is that the deal? You're going to interrupt until I show you off? He's getting better. He's on some new meds. We're not going to be able to fix the kidney failure or reverse it, but we might be able to give him another year. Huh? Give you another year? You'd like to hang out with us for another year, right? Can we get 2 more Christmases out of you? Can we get 2 more Christmases? Yeah, I know you fight me when I give you your meds. So he's doing better. But that's exactly what Steven's talking about. But when this guy says, do you like the fact you could swap between tab or action? Tab or action is the camera. I don't have a problem. If anybody thinks that I have a problem with the action camera, I do not. I think the action camera is great. I like the action camera. I think the action camera allows you to be Guild Wars 2-esque and allows you to appeal to... You're not going to appeal. Nothing you do, right? And remember I said, who's the target audience? Nothing you do with Ashes of Creation is going to buy you that red box. Nothing you do with Ashes of Creation is going to buy you that red box. Somebody at Intrepid Studios is... And I don't know who the person in charge of identifying the target audience is and who are we aiming for, but somebody at Intrepid Studios doesn't understand the fact that the target audience box of this black bordered is the whole audience. The remaining blue piece is Ashes of Creation's target audience. Nothing you do is gonna unlock that red part. How do I donate the points for the gift card gold? Oh, do I have a gift card thing that are still sitting out there? Hold on, that might be a holdover from when I had to take my hiatus. Was I in the middle of a fucking giveaway and nobody told me? You guys know that I had to stop streaming. Oh, okay. Sorry guys. Let me do that. Shit, I'm sorry. Since I've been back, nobody told me. I'm gonna have to go through my books. I'm gonna have to go through the books. Channel points. 1 second. Unfortunately, all right. I reopened the gift card goal. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to give you guys a full 30-day extension on that, so you guys will hit that no problem. I apologize. I really do apologize. I forgot that I was in the middle of a gift card giveaway when I had to stop streaming for a bit. Literally, I got life through a curveball and hit me in the face. You will never get 100% of the audience. You won't even get 100% of your target audience. Exactly. You will never get the whole target audience. So you need to focus on the blue box. You need to focus on the blue box. That's your obtainable target audience. Now, how do you get as many of those? You think ArcAge's recent resurgence will last? If not, what if any games have caught your eye while you're continuing to wait? I don't think ArcAge is, and I don't want to go too far into this because I'm making a video on this. But my answer is no. I don't think ArcAge's recent resurgence will last unless they make some changes. And one of those changes is delaying their fresh start. And I'm going to be doing a video later today, tomorrow, working on that. It's interesting that they want to harken back to the traditional MMOs, and the statement "this game isn't for everyone" to me goes so heavily against action combat. Hell, I can't even imagine Steven being the type to fully enjoy action combat. So I'm really confused by Ash's insistence on making it a feature. Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping Fractured would be testing again around the holidays. Remember, Fractured just got some major investment money, and that's going to change their direction, because when you're in development and you suddenly get a bunch of money, now you can suddenly do a bunch of different things. So it makes more sense that they're not going to have a build ready because they're still gutting it. Dante, I suggest you go to the YouTube. I talk about the ArcAge resurgence in a video. So I suggest you go check that one out. Let's see what people have to say. The only combat Ashes of Creation needs is from Terra Online. No, they don't. Terra Online combat absolutely sucks. Here's the reason why. If Terra Online's combat made the game, why did Terra never become like a top tier MMORPG? You want to talk about why combat kills games? Terra Online's combat wasn't good enough to support the rest of the game. Many abilities on hotbar, possibility for chains, action, movement, naming. Action combat still maintains good visuals, active block and dodge, best combat ever. No, best combat ever in your opinion. But metrics wise, if the combat carried Terra, why didn't Terra do better? Yeah. Also, the only combat Ashes needs is from a 10-year-old game. Why not cement it yet? Too early. There are other more basic systems that they need to cement. Combat can wait for a few months. We're on a good track. No, George. I'm going to call George Blackout by name. George, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you constantly do this. Ready? Other systems in game. Here's all the other systems in the game that all need combat to touch them. This is Project Management 101. What gets done and buttoned up and never touches anything again? You know a system that gets done and buttoned up and never touches combat? Here, I'll tell you one, and it's one of the few ones. All right, I'm going to show you some stuff that doesn't need combat. Art, but not animations. Launcher, Hatcher, character creator. These things don't need combat. Well, character creator, minus hitbox. These things don't need combat. Oh, music. Yeah, music. Music, not sound effects. Not sound effects. Not sound effects. Because sound effects tie into combat. Because you got to have a good audio fidelity. Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure we fought the patcher during... Yeah, the players fought the patcher. That was definitely true. But this is where I literally want to just respond back. Can you please tell me what your project management experience is? Frankly, Terra made bad game design decisions that led to its downfall. The combat was its only saving grace. Race and gender locking, pay-to-win aspects, lack of meaningful and endgame combat, PvP had no progression, cosmetics that looked out of place. Right. But you just proved the point that combat can't carry a game. Combat can't carry the game. Quest dialogue, true, but quests do touch combat. The economy, actually, Rage, combat does affect the economy because it affects the artisan system, because PvP is prevalent in gathering, and you're crafting, you're making a lot of your items for people in combat. So yes, combat even touches the artisan system. Music frequently changes tracks when combat starts. Yeah, but Bear McCreary doesn't need to know a damn thing about how combat in Ashes of Creation works. You just tell them I need combat tracks. That's why I said music, but not sound effects. Sound effects need to tie into the combat. Bear McCreary's gonna score all of the music, and he doesn't give a shit how combat works. He doesn't give a shit if it's action or tab, or if it's two-handers do twice as much or only 1.9 damage. He doesn't care about that. Ashes of Creation combat has to meet 2 requirements. It must be decently fun. It must be compatible with server infrastructure so that it will not lag in large PvP battle settings. Okay, so again, number 2 has nothing to do with the combat system. The combat system has to be designed around lag. The combat system has to be designed around a laggy system. You can either go with, you're gonna just have lag, or you can go with what EVE Online does and you're gonna have time dilation. However, it must be compatible with the server infrastructure so that it will not lag in a large PvP battle setting. I mean, yes, but that's like saying number 2, it must work. Every MMO developer promises both of these qualities, but no one ever delivers on number 2. Yes, they do. PlanetSide 2 delivered on large PvP battles. EVE Online delivered on it. Now, you don't like how they delivered on it. But they delivered on it. I don't care how the combat is manifested in the game or how long it takes to develop, as long as it doesn't lag in sieges. All right, so what you're saying is you're okay with you're okay with development lasting until 2099 when everybody's on a fiber connection. Remember, lag isn't all the developer's fault. And I did this picture the other day. If you have to make 27 connections through some jank routes just because of where you live, lag might not be the developer's fault. If everybody else can play the game and there's not lag and you have lag, it might be your route to the server. You might get lag because your PC is a little shitty. Now, does the developer have the latency is almost never the developers, and if it is, they need to be punished. Yeah, exactly. If the lag is server side, you've either done really bad net code or you have really shitty hardware, and that is on the developer. That is absolutely on the, well, again, it's not on the developer, it's technically on the distributor or the publisher, but it's on the developer to have written a better contract. They are currently in the process of testing distant systems. It's hard to give an opinion of it until we have the system in our hands. No, again, it's not, McStackerson. It's absolutely not, and you should know better because you're a Phoenix Initiative member. If you spent $2,500 to join the Phoenix Initiative, you should know the best time to give feedback is sooner rather than later. Oh, hold on, I want to actually save this one in case we need it later. So, if you guys know, I've done this a few times on the show. I'm gonna do. Here's your design phases, right? No, I don't want, yes, these are not your design phases. These are your execution phases, right? I'm gonna run out of space. Now you'll notice that 90's in red. You'll notice that 90's in red. Hold on, we need to go do our Stream Raiders battle, then we'll bebop back over here real quick. Guys, there is, I said design phases, but that's specifically for, I needed to be more specific. I need to do another bar above that. But we need to keep bebopping. I'm waiting for the Stream Raiders message. I'm gonna start giving out stuff. I'm gonna start giving out goodies. Hey, we're doing pretty good today. We're not failing PvE today. That's good. Good to see people dropping a lot of good to see people dropping a lot of bubbas. Oh, when we're gonna do a boss. Nice. Gonna let me in? Yes. Okay. Cool. For a boss, I'm gonna bring my tank. And okay, here we go. So, what you have here is right about there. Okay, so this top bar is the actual design phase, right? The top bar is the actual design phase. So when you do the same process at the bottom in the design phase, but you can start executing a plan at about the 70% design phase, but you don't exceed, right? You kind of have these lineups where I'm not going to exceed about 20%. I'm not going to go to 30% till I have the 80% plan. Like, for example, you're building a house. You do not have to wait until the blueprints are 100% certified and done. Every window, everything, every interior thing, everything is decided to dig the hole. See what I'm saying? You can dig the hole and then the foundation guy will be like, all right, I need to know that we're past the 70% design phase. Now, the problem is that if you're at the 70% design phase and you've already decided on a slab foundation and the guy's already poured the slab foundation, you can't turn around suddenly and say, I want a basement. That there is an inherent risk to executing before 100% design phase. But if you're already digging out a basement, chances are you're not going to switch to a slab. You see what I'm saying? Like in this top bar, the paper, this is the paper, and this is the execution. You don't, these aren't consecutive tasks. These are kind of concurrent tasks at certain benchmarks. Well, we're supposed to be somewhere around here, right? We're supposed to be somewhere around here for combat. Because we're in Alpha 1, so we're somewhere around here. Appreciate the sub. Oh, old school. Those are the ones I made, but I don't have a program that can let me make them transparent. So, appreciate that. So, the problem is, we're somewhere around here because we're in Alpha 1. But we're somewhere off the page on combat design because we still haven't made decisions. And so when people turn around and say they are currently in the process of testing different systems, it's hard to give an opinion of it until we have the system in our hands. Number one, no, it's not. I don't have to wait. I do not have to wait till I have it in my hands to tell you it's a bad fucking idea. Number two, Steven and Jeff made really, really, really potent statements early on in the process, in the development of Ashes, and they said, we're using agile software development. They said, we're using agile software development. And I said, okay, that's cool. I know agile project management. Let me go study up on agile software development. Same shit, different flavor. Instead of being double chocolate chip, it's double chocolatey chip from a different brand. Same shit. They said, we're using agile, we're using agile, we're using agile, we're using agile. The problem is that you're not using agile. Uh-oh. The problem is you're not using agile because you are running the circle. Appreciate that. That's 2 subs. Love it. Thank you. Do I have the wheel up still? So yeah, the problem is that you went into the development phase for combat. You've effectively gone into your development phase for combat 3 times, but you're not done with the brainstorming. See, this is the thing about agile. What Steven's talking about in that video, where they're going to prototype some tech to see some things, They're all the way the fuck back in Brainstorm. They're not in design. So we should have never seen Alpha 1. And we should have never seen the Battle Royal. And we should have never seen Alpha 0. I don't know who at Intrepid is running their project management. And it's either one of two things, the best I can guess. Either number one, Steven has hired a bunch of experts and is now ignoring them, and he wants to do it his way. There's no solution for that. There's no solution for that. But given what I know about Steven and given the interactions I've had with Steven, I don't think that's it. Steven seems too smart to be the guy that hires a bunch of people, because Steven's gotten smarter over the last 5 years. He talks more like a game developer. He walks more like a game developer. He doesn't wear sandals at the office. He quacks more like a developer. So 5 years ago, it was a rich guy who started a gaming studio. 5 years later, it's a game developer. He's a creative director. He walks the walk, he talks the talk, he quacks the quack. It's that. I think the problem is somebody on Intrepid's team really wants action combat in the game. And so they're derailing the process. When people say they are currently in the process of testing different systems, no, they're not. And no, they shouldn't be. Because they haven't tested abilities being action and tab. So this is all tech testing phase. Okay, so there's no standard words for, there's no standard words in game development. Every studio uses different words, but there's no such thing as an Alpha 0. Okay? There's no such thing as an Alpha 0. It's just Alpha. Generally, what Intrepid did with Alpha 0 is generally referred to friends and family testing. Because it's really easy to put your friends and family under an NDA because they all support your project. They opened up their friends and family testing to 1,200 people, which was good because they learned a lot. There is one thing that game studios do early on, and they do all of their testing in-house. So noon on Friday, everybody buttons up their machines, their work for the day, they restart their machine, they go into game profile, and they play the game as it's built. And that's great to do early on. But you need outside connections to find problems. Why aren't the patches pushing? Well, because the patching server's configured wrong. Well, why didn't you discover that internally? Because we don't patch from the patching server. We patch from the network. Is it possible there's someone on the team that's investing a lot of money? No. There are no investors into Ashes of Creation except John and Steven. Hey! Oh, you bad cat. There's no investors in Ashes of Creation except John and Steven. Let's see what else people have to say. I think it's clear that Intrepid is going to constantly be fiddling. Split infinitive, man. To be constant, yeah. Don't split your infinitives. It's bad writing. To be fiddling constantly or to be constantly fiddling, but not to constantly be. Star Trek, to boldly go. Great sci-fi, bad English. To go boldly. It's clear that Intrepid is going to be constantly fiddling with combat in pursuit of awesome. So there's going to be waves of it's good. Oh, that's odd. Whoa, that sucks. Better now. Okay, good. I'm cool with that. I think there are two concerns Jahlon brings up that are not worrisome, but noticeable. There's a lot of unfinished systems or not started systems that need to be added, addressed. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good by targeting too many player segments. Settle on good enough for now and focus on completing the first iteration of the game. This is absolutely huge. Even though the guy disagrees with me on how... I don't know this person, but I like their response. Jahlon brings up... There are two concerns that Jahlon brings up that are not worrisome, but noticeable. This is where we're both on the side of the line that we have concerns. This is why you don't need to fight with people over the gravity of the concern. We can both have a concern. We don't have to agree on the severity of the concern. We just are both concerned. It's just like we can both agree that that's pay to ... You call it pay to win, I call it pay to convenience. I think we all agree we paid to do it. We don't have to agree on the severity, but we can agree on it's a duck. Hold on one second. It's the holiday season. Gotta always make sure. Around this season, I have family traveling, and a lot of them travel through nearby. And so if they get stranded, I don't want to have them sitting at the airport for 2 hours. I've had a couple of family members get stranded. They can get to my place really easy. They just need to know to get on the train. They're like, come pick me up at the airport. Nah, bitch, go spend $1.50 and get on the train and take it all the way to the base. I'll get you at the base. Call me when it tells you you're at this ramp or this exit, and I'll leave for the base, and I'll beat the train there. But number 2, good is the enemy of best. Write this down. Okay, write this down if you want some Jahlon motivation. I didn't write this, but write this down and put it on a post-it note. Good is the enemy of best, but best is the enemy of better. All right, so it's you should have like a motivational quote book that you look at. So, good is the enemy of best, but best is the enemy of better. Right? There is something called good enough. And when you have 52 systems in a game that need to get worked on, this is good enough for right now to build the next thing. Where I think we can't judge it until we see it isn't the combat system. I think it's how the combat system plays with all the other kids in the sandbox. I frankly don't care what combat system they go with, because I'll adapt accordingly. I do agree they need to be focusing on the rest of the game systems. And as you guys saw, they need to be focusing on the rest of the game systems, but in order to do that, they need to be past the brainstorming phase and really through the design phase, and they need to be in the development phase, because you can't develop all these other systems until you know what you're going to develop. You don't have to have the whole combat system developed to develop all those other phrases, or you don't have to have the combat system fully developed to develop all the other systems, but you have to know what they're going to look like when they are developed. I'm not super concerned with combat. I'm not a person that has to win every fight. I just don't want to be PK'd every 5 minutes. Well, those two things are mutually exclusive, right? You don't have to be a person that wins every fight, but you should be concerned with the combat system, because if the combat system sucks, are you going to play Ashes of Creation? If the combat system sucks, are you going to play the game? And the answer is probably no. What do these people want? What do these people want? You're not at my airport. Like, you're not at my airport. Oh, good. That one's fine. I need to make sure. I need to make sure that I separate some of the food for food allergies. So knows. I'd personally be happy if they said, "Hey, we have everything fleshed out and functioning, but we're still figuring out combat." No, Light of Genesis, they can't do that. Here's the thing: you can't build everything else and then build combat, because of what we talked about earlier in the show. You can't build everything else and then work on combat, because combat touches everything. Combat touches if it's not green, combat touches every other system. So how can you build every other system, right? Combat needs to, the number of people you have in a fight and the combat style live in a symbiotic relationship. So if you're going to have 250 versus 250, well, now the wall damage has to be set for only 250 attackers. Obviously, the wall damage should change. How many hit points the walls have should change based on how many people are going to be in the fight. Because the number of people in the fight are going to determine how many siege engines you should have at a time. The number of siege engines equals the attacker's offensive capability versus walls. Thus, the walls have to be balanced. Now, some people are going to say, well, that's just balancing. You're right. It is just balancing. But it's a lot of things. Look at how many systems I just touched. Are we going to be predominantly AoE combat? Are we going to be predominantly single target combat? Well, those two decisions really factor into combat design. And the combat design is going to change how the server is going to handle the load. It's a lot different. 250 versus 250 with 200 damage dealers. No. 250 versus 250 with 187 damage dealers doing all AoE is going to stress the server in different ways than 187 damage dealers doing 50% AoE. So combat touches everything. When would be a reasonable time frame for Ashes to be released to the public? 2025 is my reasonable time frame. Having followed the project for a while and having played several MMOs, it is very difficult to ever completely break away from tab targeting. No, it's not. No, it's not. Star Wars Galaxy had Freeform in its space game in which tab... Well, first of all, Star Wars Galaxies wasn't a space game. That's wrong. Star Wars Galaxies was a MMORPG set on multiple planets where you were on the planets. Eve is a space game. Star Citizen is a space and land game. But you still have to manually steer and fire at the target at your crosshairs. My prediction at this point is that we're far more likely to see free targeting either in instanced arena game PvP or with such siege implements as the well-mounted ballista and the driven catapults. What? Oh, we're far more likely to see that in those things. The initial vision was quite unique and interesting, but also far harder to control and probably not a good idea for the vast number of players that MMO crowds can contain. Yes. True. True. It's early in the alpha stage of development. That's your answer. Bullshit. That is a person right there that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they shouldn't have an opinion. Okay. Textbook for... Oh, hold on. Let me kill the... One of the textbooks for Game Design and Development 101, right? One of the textbooks for Game Design and Development 101. Ready? Where is it? The 3 major milestones of game production. Alpha, you have your game completely put together, but assets, gameplay, and levels are still being tweaked and tuned. Beta, your game is finished. Now, hold on, let me read that again. I want you guys to hear what some game developers call alpha. You have your game completely put together, but assets, gameplay, and levels are still being tweaked. Beta, your game is finished and now subject to testing to find bugs, fine-tune gameplay, and deal with any last-minute revisions. When people turn around and they keep saying the game is an alpha, the game is an alpha, the game is an alpha, bullshit. Alpha is a feature-complete game at some point in alpha. So when people say it's early in the alpha stage of development, I argue with you, no, it's not. I argue with it that Intrepid should not have brought this product. And you guys know, over the summer, I begged and pleaded with Intrepid to not release the NDA. As the content creator with probably the most ground to gain by them releasing the NDA, I begged and pleaded with them to not release the NDA. I begged and pleaded with them. Please do not release the NDA. It's too soon, you're not ready. You are absolutely, it's too soon, you are not ready, you shouldn't be releasing the NDA. Now, there were advantages of them releasing the NDA, because they got that deliverable off their plate. Now they don't owe anybody anything. But when people turn around and they say this bullshit, it's early in the alpha stages of development. Again, if you're gonna walk back the fact that now, oh, you're not using agile, That's okay. You're not using Agile, then fine. Use the excuse it's early in alpha. But you should have already had brainstormed which combat system you want. You should have already designed your ideal combat system. You're 5 years into development. And you're just now prototyping if abilities should be action and tab. And again, if combat touches every one of these systems, I don't think Ashes of Creation in anywhere except art is above the 10% design phase. If anybody wants me to justify that, I will justify that, but I don't think they're above 10% in any aspect of their game. Community gave them feedback a while ago on the combat system, so they went with one direction. When they implemented it, people gave more feedback, changed it back the other way. They really don't let anyone, they don't really know, let alone have anything set in stone. Who knows what to expect? Most things are just ideas at this point. No, things are not fucking ideas at this point. Ideas is what other game developers on my Discord are doing. And they're saying, what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about that? Brainstorming and design is ideas. Intrepid has already walked this circle 3 times. They've walked this circle 3 times. And in at least 3 times. Most things sound great on paper. No, bullshit. Most things don't sound great on paper. Does this sound good on paper? And I know I'm using a radical extreme, but it's to get people's opinion, to get people to wake up. Most things don't sound great on paper. Did you know in most brainstorming meetings that I do, I give every person because I'm a CPI guy. I'm a continuous process improvement specialist, is what I spent the last couple of years of my military career doing. I was supposed to become a black belt, but I had to get retired. I was going to go to the University of Tennessee. I've already run countless numbers of projects as both a green belt and a yellow belt. I walk in, number one, I use the scene from Moneyball. What's the problem? Brad Pitt sitting around the table. What's the problem? Guy starts talking. He says, that's the problem. He says, no, that's not the problem. What's the problem? Next guy answers. He says, no, that's not the problem. Third guy, what's the problem? No, that's not the problem. And he says, there's rich teams, then there's poor teams, and then there's 50 yards of shit, and then there's us. That's the problem. And he says, we're trying to think like the Yankees in here, and we're going to lose to the Yankees out there. Billy knew the fundamentals of CPI, even if he'd never been to a CPI class. I make people, every single person who wants to be involved in the Just Do It event, the FSO 21 event, the improvement event, the process improvement event, or the JDI, the RIE, Just Do It, or rapid improvement events. I make everybody who wants, if you want to put skin in the game, if you want to stay in the meeting, it is a requirement that you fill out 5 ideas. I used to have a little prop, a little fairy in a cage, and I pull that out of, I used to, props, I'm huge on props. I pull the little fairy out of the cage, I put the fairy on the cage, and I say, it's time to let the good idea fairy out of the cage. You all owe me 5 answers. And I had people that are like, well, I'm not going to give an answer. And I just look at them and say, well, then you're excused. And send me somebody else from your, whatever, your department, your function. And they'd get mad, and the colonel, the champion, the general, the champion of the event had signed it. If you don't give me 5 ideas in the first hour of the meeting, we're going to take a break while you send me somebody else from your function. Because I want the most ridiculous ideas up there on paper. I want the most ridiculous ideas up there on paper. Because only from the most ridiculous ideas can we get to good ideas. Notice what I said. Only from the most ridiculous ideas can we get to the good ideas. Most things sound great on paper? No. Most first pass things sound horrible on paper. But you gotta listen to those. You gotta put your hand in the pig shit to find the truffles. What follows is my opinion, 100% conjecture on my part, based on my current understand. Typo. Somebody ping Karthos and tell him he's got a typo of the situation and information at my disposal. Combined with some leaps in logic grounded in experience in other games. To be frank, no. Why don't you just be Karthos? To be Karthos, the changes to the combat at this stage is not that uncommon or worrisome. What may be worrisome is the change to combat might actually be a total top-down rework of the entire system, and I suspect it's because they've run into issues with the ability to toggle between action and tab. This 100% a guess because other games have managed to do bows, a known problem child under the current combat build, with both action or tab, so logically should be a mix of both, and that's giving them the problem. One that's sorted if it isn't already. I think we might be in a good place. Again, pure speculation, but what else is there to do at this point? Yes, exactly. But see, I'm not speculating as a gamer. And that's what I want to remind people of. I'm not speculating as a gamer. I'm speculating as a project manager. As a gamer, most gamers are sheeple. 7 years is a figure floaty in my head. I'm not sure where it came from. Might have been from this channel. It's 5 years of development. Ashes, yeah. Ashes is in its 5 years, is in its 5th year of development. And then 7 years from when Steven started tooling around the idea. But you got to be careful when you talk passive development and active development. Passive development is when, like my wife and I have some plans for things we'd like to do. I have some things I'd like to do with my content creation and my corporation. One of them is I'd like you all to start listening to my Spotify and sharing all my Christmas music, because then I make money and then I can do other things. Money makes the world go round, and I like to give a lot of Fiverr artists and composers money. But without the money, I can't execute the plan. So you should have long-term plans. Steven spent a long time talking to people before he ever decided to invest. I mean, right up the word go, Steven invested $2 million into Intrepid Studios. Before they even got to the Kickstarter, he was already $2 million committed. That's a lot of commitment. So, good post. The two systems theoretically could not only work together, but also complement each other. It's just going to take time, testing, and consideration to make that possible. No, it's not. And I'm not trying to be a naysayer. But there are studios with $500 million development budgets. The only studio that has gotten close to what Intrepid wants to do is ArenaNet with Guild Wars 2. And action combat players will not concede the point that Guild Wars 2 action is good action. Guild Wars 2 gives you two options for how you want to play. But Guild Wars 2 isn't a sniper rifle in action combat. It's a 203 grenade launcher. Close is close enough. You can throw to like 12 feet to the person's left and still hit them. Part of that becomes one of the biggest problems in action combat games is how do you do hitboxes, right? Because, and this has always been, this is and will always be the biggest problem of hitboxes, right? The problem with hitboxes is that if hitboxes scale to character size, then everybody wants to make the little tiny fuck, and you feel like you're playing a game of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? The problem is that in order to make hitboxes meaningful, this has to be your standard hitbox, right? This is the 50%. Anything above the 50% gets bonuses to physical strength, constitution or endurance. I'm hesitant to say stamina, but most people want some sort of stamina buff. Inventory capability, right? You got to give them bonuses, and I should have put the bonuses in green, but I'll just do. And then penalties, obviously double damage, because they're so much bigger. They soak more of the hit. easier to hit, obviously. They should have a lower dodge because they're fucking huge. And then on the other side, all these are just reversed. These take half damage from hits because they're smaller. They soak, there's less body mass, but they have a lower physical strength, but they probably have a higher dex. But now you've got two problems here, right? Now you've got two problems because now you're not only trying to balance on races, you're trying to not only balance on races, you're trying to balance on sizes. And then remember, the more complex you make it, the more how the fuck did they do that is going to come out of your mouth with your player base. For example, you guys know on my shelf here, I have 50 books for the Rifts tabletop. I have one particular class that I absolutely love. One race that I absolutely love to play. I play a silhouette. They're quasi shadow elementals. And they have a standard, they can become any class. They don't have a class restriction. But no matter what class they become, because they're quasi elementals, they have a mana pool and they learn 2 spells innately per level. So they have a high magic component. My storyteller said, yeah, I love the idea, play one. But he only was vaguely familiar with them. He wasn't like deep vested interest in knowing about him. He read the article real quick and then he approved it, which was great for me, but it fucked up his whole campaign. It fucked up his whole campaign. The reason why it fucked up his whole campaign was now all of a sudden he's got nobody else in the group that has magic. And he kind of forgets that I have magic. And then one day he brings us up against something that was meant for a bunch of ass pain for people that don't have magic, but I have the spell that, because why would I not take the spell that allows me to just open doors? Open door. The storyteller was like, shit. Like, yeah, because you had everybody's character sheets, so you knew that the door check was going to be, nobody had like high level locksmithing, nobody could bypass electronic locks. No, spell, open door. And he was like, well, that sucks. I wasn't expecting that. Well, you know, that's the same thing. If you turn around and you start having races with bonuses, you could take a dwarf, right? You could take a dwarf that has, I don't know, +6 to strength and make him a half-size dwarf. He loses 6 to strength, but he balances out. So, yeah, Karthos, you have a typo. How dare you? Based on my current understand. Where's your ing? So, making those two systems work is likely harder than making a single system on its own. It's not just likely harder. That is absolutely the problem here. Yeah, you type fast and work for the government. Yeah, no shit. Fucking, I'm just gonna get the thought on paper. I'm gonna hit F7 and Microsoft Word's gonna do my spell check for me. By the way, if you're a college student, this is my greatest, if you're a high school student or a college student, it's my greatest advice for you. Go into Microsoft Word, turn off the setting that allows you to have auto spell check. Number one, it's for 2 reasons. Turn off auto spell check if you're in college. Number one, when you're writing, just write. Just write. It's a reason why it's called a draft. Just write. Get the ideas out. Number 2, you should learn how to spell words. And having the auto check is like why you don't know anybody's phone number anymore. Like, I know my wife's phone number, and that is it. I don't know anybody else's. I don't know anybody else's phone number. I used to know everybody's phone number. In fact, my ma's used to be like, I'd be standing next to the phone, and my ma, she'd be like, dial your grandmother for me. And hand her the phone. My dad would be like, call whoever, hand him the phone. because they had to have all that shit written down. I just had it all memorized. I haven't memorized shit, man. There was one day, you guys remember the scene in Desperado where he's like, what is the fucking number to the phone in my car? It was so bad. I left my BlackBerry on my desk, and I'm like 7 miles down a flight line, and I had to call into the squadron, and it's like shit. And one of my guys is like, well, I have my phone. I was like, yeah, call the squadron. He's like, what's the number? I'm like, how the fuck do you not have the squadron? I'm like, fucking on my brick. Apprentice to base. Yeah, go ahead. Call the squadron and tell him I need the commander to come out here. Call him on his phone. No! Do what I tell you. You work for me. I didn't need everybody on the fucking base to know I didn't know my own squadron's phone number. This is why many people would prefer they pick one. Most seem to prefer they pick tab. Personally, I hate this and I like action combat way more. I feel that tab target is antiquated and much less fun. Ideally, we get good implementation of both. See, this is bullshit. I'm gonna call this person out right here. This person says, personally, I hate this and I hope we get a good implementation of both. Well, you hate it because you know the fallback plan. You know the fallback plan is tab only. Tab is antiquated. Tab is absolutely antiquated. So are internal combustion engines that run on gasoline. Your car is antiquated. Your car is absolutely antiquated. Teslas are the wave of the future, man. Electric cars, wave of the future. The problem is that Teslas are like action combat. The rest of the structures aren't developed enough to support them yet. I saw a video that you have to spend X number of dollars to get a Tesla to Tesla charging kit, because Tesla dealerships won't let you charge your car enough to get home. So, the guy was stuck in a Tesla parking lot. He didn't have enough juice to get home. So he had to call his buddy who also had a Tesla, and then they had to use this. They have the conversion kit. It's like, that's action combat. Action combat is great. Action combat is great for Dark Souls, Dynasty Warriors, your PC, your console. That's great. The problem becomes all the other systems, the internet, the server structure, everybody having equivalent hardware. I mean, imagine having somebody trying to play your action combat game playing on an NVIDIA 660 and I'm playing on a 3090. Who's your target? Where's your bar? If you're developing a game for a 660, what is it not gonna? Because remember, if you're trying to appeal to everybody with computer hardware, people got a wide range of computer hardware. At the same time, I don't like mandate that they make things for the 3090 level of power. Otherwise, I'd be playing with 4 people. This isn't something I'd be interested in. The game needs combat that is fresh some way or another. Without it, it'll be dead within a year. No, you're bullshit. You're absolutely wrong. Combat does not make a game. Combat can only break the game. Combat doesn't make the game. All those other systems in the game make the game. Combat absolutely touches nodes, caravans, wars, the artisan system, religion, I spelt that wrong, election methods, naval system, bounty hunting, dungeons, raids, social organizations, questing, grinding. Combat touches all those systems. If all those systems are great and the combat is solid, people are going to play the game even if the combat is tab. But if the action combat is ass, it doesn't matter how good those systems are, you will lose players because they won't play a game with ass action combat. Combat in MMOs is only a part of it, and it isn't brand new. Are you willing to overlook the first true modern sandbox with unrestricted open world PvP interaction? What the fuck are you talking about? And if it isn't brand new, are you willing to overlook the first true modern sandbox MMO with unrestricted open world player interaction? What fucking game are you talking about here? Because you're not talking about Ashes of Creation. Number one, Ashes of Creation is not a sandbox. Ashes of Creation is not a sandbox. Ashes of Creation is a theme box. Steven and Intrepid Studios are not pitching Ashes of Creation as a sandbox because it's not. EVE Online is a sandbox. EVE Online is the sandboxiest of games on the market, unless you cross a line out of MMORPGs and you move into Minecraft, 7 Days to Die, Rust, Ark, and even those games have rules and restrictions. Even those games have rules and restrictions. Mortal Online, same thing. It has rules and restrictions. Hey, first time caller. I really hope they realize they should just stick with tab targeting. The best way you can make sure that they know that is when you go to stuff like that video that I put out and you leave a comment and you thumbs up the video and that video gets traction. When you make comments on the forum threads, that's how you let Intrepid know. Getting people to say, I hope they stick with tab target is a powerful statement because then they have to look at all the feedback. Right now, I kind of feel like on my 10-week break that all the action combat people were Senator Rumson from the American president, and they only got listened to because they were the only ones talking. And now I am Andrew Shepard, and I am the president, and I'm here to talk because I think a lot of this stuff, a lot of the vocal minority has had their 15 minutes, and now they need to sit down. Jahlon got a bit pissy since they didn't read out his question in the Q&A a while back. It's best to just watch his earlier videos and ignore the later ones. What the fuck is this person talking about? Almost every time I put a question in, they read my question, specifically read my question. I didn't get pissy. I got angry because they dodged a question. They dodged a question that 30 plus people copy and pasted. And 7, 8, 9 months later, they're still dodging the fucking question. And I really don't want to be insulted by a guy that's named Davey Wavy. So I'm gonna move on. People getting salty for not having their question read. Never happened. He got his army of zombies to each post the exact same question and the exact same wording to try and force his question into the stream. And Intrepid blanked it gloriously. It was a wonderful moment that proves just how much power these streamers have. Did I fucking fuck this guy's sister or something? Like, did I fuck your sister like 20 years ago? And did I fuck your mom like 30 years ago and you're my kid? Like, dude, you're so far up on my nuts, I'm gonna rename you from Davey Wavy to fucking Gold Bond. What is your hate on towards me? My army of zombies? You all should be offended. He just called you all zombies. He called you all zombies. It's an important question. It has to do with your monetization. You're still selling cosmetic skins. You're still selling cosmetic skins that you're not telling people what they're going on. Your community manager came into my channel, who I addressed politely and said, please don't try to have this conversation with me right now. We can table this and we can have a discussion later on. And a fight got picked with me, and it was, well, we know what they're for, but I have to wait till the design team tells me. What the fuck are you talking about? You know what the cosmetics are for? You're designing cosmetics, but you don't know what building the freehold skins go on, but you're still selling them. I don't know, man, but I'm pretty sure that you're gonna lose your FTC complaint when you tell people that the cosmetics they've purchased can't go on any building. This is my prediction. They're gonna have to allow every cosmetic skin that they've ever put out to go on any building. Because if they don't, somebody's gonna go to the FTC and file a false advertising campaign. And let me tell you, the FTC doesn't fuck around with you. The FTC shows up, they ask you a couple of questions, and then they slap you with a fine. And the fine says, here's your fine, now give refunds and now fix it. or fix it. And if you don't do that, the FTC shows back up, hits you with a bigger fucking fine, and then they say, we're gonna keep fining you until you give refunds. They'll actually take away the fix it option. So, Shipskins though. Yeah, Shipskins the same thing. Yeah, it sounds like we know who the salty motherfucker is. Yeah, it's like, are you upset, Davey Wavy, because the Hand of Unity doesn't have enough people that they can go and get their questions asked? Also, Intrepid blanked it gloriously. All Intrepid did was delete viewers' opinions. And then, again, it was a knee-jerk reaction. And what I asked was, well, then can multiple people, because they said they actually said if multiple people are asking the same question, they roll that up into one answer. Clearly they didn't, because it's 9 months later and they still haven't answered the question. After reading all the comments, I have some things to say. Also, just to preface, I hate typing. I'm going to prefer talking it out of a YouTube video, but I'm still working on my channel and haven't made final adjustments yet, so there you go. Someone said if combat isn't fresh, people will leave, and I disagree. Is combat important to a lot of people? Absolutely. There are many other reasons people leave or stay. That is true. Well, people don't stay because your combat is good if the rest of your game is bad. I just said, combat doesn't make a game, but combat can break a game. Some people stay no matter how bad the game is, and if there isn't many people on their current server because of time they dumped into the game. You can also talk about corporate influence from any of these games and how microtransactions have taken over certain games, and that's why those people left. These are all irrelevant points. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the combat. No, what do you mean sometimes it has nothing to do with the combat? Sometimes it has nothing to do with the combat. No, most of the time people leave because it has nothing to do with the combat. I see you said sheep always think everyone who isn't a sheep is crazy. Yeah, if you're wrong because you don't share my opinion. Again, if I didn't make myself clear in my post, I apologize. In broad terms, all I'm saying is that Steven is a pretty direct guy. He has a direct answer to many of his systems and how they work. All right, well, no, he doesn't. Okay, no, he doesn't. Because he doesn't have a direct answer on how his cash shop works. So, Steven has an answer. Steven has an answer. If Steven had direct answers to how many of his systems worked, I wouldn't have 20 pages of follow-up questions. It's almost like a game is a sum of multiple factors, and people will evaluate these factors differently based on their personal preferences. Absolutely, and I love your name, by the way. Nice play on spelling. But the trick to that is, combat will never make your game, but combat certainly breaks your game. Your monetization model can't make or break your game. Your monetization model can make your population, but it can break your game. There isn't a single magic bullet that makes your game. Now, your monetization can help make your game if you do a box price plus a monthly sub and no cash shop, because then people feel like they're getting their money's worth. You're keeping out the plebeians and the trash. At the same time, when you explain to them the box price offsets development and the subscription keeps the servers running in ops and sustainment, people are willing to do that. Yeah, I love the people who talk about how important combat is. Now having good combat will make the game good. Then point out other games that did good combat, but they never still play this game. So apparently good combat wasn't the sole thing keeping you playing. Exactly. For the most part, those systems won't change completely because he wants them a certain way for his game, and I understand that. When he talks about combat, it's almost like catering to both sides of the combat coin, and most times when people try to cater to both sides, neither of them end up happy. This is absolutely true. You can make all the people happy some of the time, and some of the people happy all of the time, but you can't make all of the people happy all of the time, but you can piss off everybody all of the time. Except the White Knights. The dumbest shit can be coming out of a person's mouth at a studio, and the White Knights are still going to defend it. White Knights are worse than the most toxic people. White Knights just really... People that love their game need to realize you need to shut the fuck up. If you love your game that much that you're willing to fight with anybody who ever says anything bad about your game, you just need to learn the best way you can help your game is to shut up and let other people do the talking. I didn't have a problem with the way combat worked in Alpha 1. I was just hoping for a 2.0 version of that in Alpha 2, and maybe we will get that. I also believe in next month's video we will get more information on combat and other Alpha 2 things. I love seeing people's opinion. Okay, first of all, I wanna say something here. Because I like when posts are genuine, and I hate disingenuous as fuck people. Okay? Also to preface that I hate typing, I'm gonna prefer to talk it out, would prefer talking it out over a YouTube video. Well, first of all, you're not talking it out over a YouTube video. You're talking. The other people are responding being writing. Number 2, ready? If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it thoroughly. If you can't break your idea down to a single 6-sentence paragraph or less, you don't understand it thoroughly. But what I hate is that up here, you're going on and on and on, and then you do this backhanded, tongue-in-cheek slide in, that I'm a creator. If you want to be a creator, then either step up to the plate, step up to the mic, or don't do this backhanded thing and learn that you did well on paragraphs up here. But yeah, now moving on, it's like, oh, I want to talk about this guy's video, and I'm also a YouTube creator. Judgment of Solomon. You try to make both people happy, you have to cut the baby in half, and that makes no one happy. Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely true.
I see, Sprocket. We've reached the end of another video. Time to thank the sponsors. Yes, that will do, that will do. Shall we pop off for a spot of tea?